I can still hear her laugh, that sharp, mocking sound that cut deeper than any blade. It was the night she packed her bags, tossing clothes into a suitcase without so much as a glance in my direction. "You'll never be enough for me, Daniel," she said, her voice dripping with cruel amusement. I had given her 5 years of my life, my love, my trust. Yet she walked away with a man I once called my friend. As she closed the door behind her, that laugh echoed in my ears, reminding me I had been nothing more than a stepping stone in her climb toward what she thought was a better life. I broke that night. There's no other way to describe it. I sat in our empty apartment, staring at the walls we'd painted together, the photos we'd hung, the promises we'd once whispered in the dark. My chest ached, not just with heartbreak, but with humiliation. She hadn't just left me. She mocked me for believing she ever loved me. For years, I carried that sound with me. Every time I tried to move on, every time another woman smiled at me, that laugh crept into my head like a ghost whispering, "You'll never be enough." I built walls around myself, pouring everything into my work, refusing to let anyone close. Friends told me I'd changed. I wasn't the light-hearted man I used to be. But how could I be, when the woman I had trusted most had not only betrayed me but made my pain her entertainment? And then one evening fate intervened. I was leaving a business dinner when I saw her, Anna. 10 years had passed, yet I recognized her instantly. She wasn't the radiant woman I remembered. No, the years had not been kind to her. Her once sparkling eyes looked tired, her body frail, her designer dress clinging desperately to a frame worn down by life. But it wasn't her appearance that struck me most. It was the tears, real, unrestrained tears streaming down her face as she stood on the street corner, clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She hadn't seen me, so I lingered in the shadows watching. A man walked past her, shouting something cruel. She flinched. That's when it became clear. This was no coincidence. Life had turned the tables. The woman who once laughed as she shattered me was now broken herself. Later, I learned the truth. She had married that so-called friend of mine, believing he was her ticket to a glamorous life. But money fades when it's squandered, and charm disappears when masks fall away. He had used her, drained her, and when she was no longer useful, he replaced her with someone younger, leaving Anna with nothing. She had burned every bridge, distanced herself from friends and family for him, and now, she was utterly alone. A part of me wanted to walk away, to let her suffer as she once let me. But curiosity, maybe even a trace of the love I once had, drew me in. When she finally saw me, her mouth fell open in shock. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice hoarse. For the first time, there was no laughter, no mockery, only desperation. "Yes," I replied, keeping my tone even. Her tears fell faster. I don't deserve to even ask, but can we talk?" We sat in a cafe nearby, and for the first time in a decade, she spoke without pride. She told me everything. How her marriage had turned into a nightmare, how he had left her penniless, how she couldn't even look at herself in the mirror anymore. She admitted she had laughed when she left me because she wanted to convince herself she was making the right choice. "But I was wrong, Daniel," she said, her hands trembling. "So terribly wrong." I watched her carefully. The man I had been 10 years ago would have given in instantly, wrapped her in his arms, and promised to fix everything. But I was not that man anymore. The years had forged me into someone stronger, colder, more guarded. "You laughed while I broke," I reminded her quietly. "Do you remember that night? The way you mocked me while walking out the door?" Her face crumpled. "I do. And I regret it every single day." There was silence between us. For the first time, she couldn't hide behind her charm or beauty. All that remained was a woman stripped of illusions, begging for the forgiveness she once thought I was too weak to deny her. I leaned back, my eyes fixed on her. "Life silenced your smile, Anna. Not me. You chose this path." Her tears spilled harder. She reached across the table, but I didn't move. "Daniel, please. I have nothing left. No one left. Not even a home. I need you." Those words would have once broken me. Now they empowered me. I realized that I no longer needed her apology. I no longer needed her love. I no longer needed her at all. "I gave you everything once," I said slowly. You laughed and threw it away. Now, I have nothing left to give you. Her sobs filled the cafe, but I felt no guilt, no anger, only release. For the first time in 10 years, the weight lifted from my chest. The laugh that had haunted me for so long no longer had power. I stood, leaving her at the table. She called after me, her voice breaking, but I didn't look back. As I walked into the night, I understood something profound. Sometimes revenge doesn't come from action. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply living well, while those who wronged you are left with nothing but the echo of their own mistakes. She laughed while leaving me. Years later, life silenced her smile. And I finally walked free.